Okay, on today's show, the forcing of EVs begins, Netflix and others could soon be restricted for everyone, and a council appears to be money grabbing in a really stupid way. Let's begin. The article says that Netflix and its biggest streaming rivals could soon find themselves restricted in the UK if they fall foul of new regulations due to come in force. The draft media bill, a new UK government white paper, is set to introduce updated laws that will impact the world's best streaming services. And under the new legislation, the likes of Netflix, Disney Plus and Prime Video could face huge fines or even have their service availability restricted if they are found guilty of breaking the government's updated broadcasting rules. The new code of content, which will be policed by the government's broadcasting regulatory body, Ofcom, is designed to protect certain viewers from harmful material, such as misleading health information and, wait for it, age-restricted content. Oh no! Video-on-demand services that are found to have breached the regulations could be issued with fines of up to £250,000 per offence. And in most cases, Ofcom will have the power to restrict a platform's availability across the UK, meaning subscribers might not be able to access the best Netflix shows or best Prime Video movies for a specific amount of time. And it's currently unclear what this service restriction punishment means. It's possible that a streaming platform could be temporarily banned on British shores for a yet to be determined length of time, or that users will be blocked from accessing certain aspects of a streaming service. The thinking behind the draft media bill is a simple one. In short, the government officials believe that video-on-demand services are hampering the efforts of traditional broadcasters. Can't have that now, can we? The BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and more to grow and produce new entertaining content for viewers to watch. The new bill then is aimed at levelling the playing field and help public service broadcasters, the BSPs, to retain and build upon their own audience bases. Now, of course, I don't know about you, but if I'm actually paying money and subscribing to something, then I want to be able to access any content I choose without being put behind some sort of restriction wall just because a few people might get offended. Oh no! It's just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, I mean, if people don't want to watch the content, then they shouldn't just watch it, but the rest of us shouldn't be punished for it. And if anything, surely at the most they should put some sort of warning up before the programme, which they seem to just love to do, don't they? But it shouldn't remove it completely, should they? And I don't know about you, but if Netflix or anything else gets cancelled and we aren't able to access either it or certain aspects of it, then I'm going to want a reduction in my subscription fee, because surely I should be able to access everything. And this whole thing about levelling the playing field is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? It's like saying, oh, hang on a minute, streaming services have been doing something really good and providing content for their subscribers. So I'll tell you what, that is making our TV look bad, so we'll lower what they can do so you're all on a level playing field. That's just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Surely, if anything, it's actually good that they're pushing the bar up, meaning that traditional TV services and whatever else must try a little bit harder to make us watch them instead of the streaming services. They shouldn't be handed some sort of get out of jail free card to make it harder for streaming services, or easier for them rather, to keep putting out the same sort of rubbish. Which kind of reminds me a little bit of the BBC. I mean, if anything, I think they kind of take the mickey the most, don't they? Relying on public funding rather than adverts or subscription fee to keep producing their, often in my opinion, biased rubbish. And this whole thing about we have to pay them to watch other TV channels live. It's just extremely outdated in this day and age, isn't it? It's like me paying Asda for the ability to shop in Tesco's. It's just something which should not be done at all. And we often hear stories, don't we, about them cutting back and doing their best to survive on their pittance, which is going to be roughly £4 billion next year, which I don't know about you, but I'd love to survive on that little pittance. But anyway, the best thing I think they could do to cut back a bit more is to cut their salaries of their highest paid stars a bit. Either that or go to the ads or subscription route. And yes, okay, they obviously do have a TV licence for Charter Protection until 2027, when hopefully that might end, but of course there's nothing saying that they can't switch to that method sooner, is there? Well, at least as far as I'm aware. Got a bit sidetracked there, didn't we? But back onto Netflix and other companies like that. It does make me wonder how much this will actually impact their subscription fees, because if it makes a load of people cancel, that's surely going to make the fees go up, at least a little bit for the remaining customers. If a lot cancel, that is, or they may indeed have to cut them if a load of people say they are going to leave, to try and tempt them to stay or tempt them to rejoin. To me, it just seems like this a little bit is clipping the wings of the streaming services to give the normal guys an easier time, which to us I think is a bit wrong. 1 in 5 cars sold next year must be electric under strict new proposals, and gas bills are set to soar because of green levies on the polluting fuel. Energy Security Secretary Grant Shapps unveiled the plan to speed up the move to cleaner energy as part of the drive to, of course, net zero carbon emissions. The proposed government targets update means that 22% of all cars sold in 2024 must be battery powered rather than either petrol or diesel, up from 17%. And to make sure this happens, manufacturers will also be fined £15,000 for every car they do not sell within the limits under the plan revealed yesterday. Howard Cox, founder of Fairfuel UK, said the rush towards more electric vehicles was a desperate move. He said this government continues its relentless march to political oblivion by putting another unconsultated edict onto drivers to go electric. And it comes as families face their gas bills going up by a further £100 next year. Ministers are planning a major halt as levies on electricity bills go down, but the ones on gas go up. And the government has confirmed that it will be sticking with the 2030 date to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles, as well as announcing more funding for electric vehicles and a consultation on the critical ZEV or ZEV mandate. It will require manufacturers to gradually increase the percentage of electric car and van sales from 2024. The ZEV mandate will take effect in 2024 and provide guidance along the way to the 2030 petrol and diesel sales ban. Also, the proposed minimum ZEV target trajectory for new cars sold begins at 22% next year and will increase in 8 to 10% in 2030 before reaching 100% in 2035. Targets are slightly different for new vans, with 10% needing to be zero emissions next year, followed by a 70% target in 2030. And finally hitting 100% in the middle of the next decade. Well, this is of course nothing but forced spoon feeding in my opinion, because if they're going to find manufacturers around £15,000 per vehicle undersold, then they're just going to try and push those vehicles out onto us customers, aren't they? Maybe, who knows, if they're a couple of hundred under, or maybe actually one or two under, and they really need to meet that target, they may start to tell us little white lies like, oh, I'm sorry, that petrol version is not on stock, but this brand new electric one is. Or, I'm sorry, sir, but it's going to take months and months and months to get that petrol one, but you can have an electric one today. Or maybe they could actually put the cost of the petrol cars up to outweigh any possible fines that they may get. Meaning that if the electric version falls within a roughly similar area and people do need a car as soon as possible, not to mention of course any other taxes or whatever they decide to put on petrol and diesel vehicles before 2030, then I guess people will be forced into buying an EV, because who knows what could happen. I mean, I guess on the run up to 2030 more and more councils and towns could put their own clean air zone charges in place to make more petrol and diesels look less appealing and shorten the amount of years that a petrol or diesel car may not have to pay the daily charge. And yes, of course, I know the government is all over the green agenda, zero carbon emissions and all that. It's sort of rubbish in my opinion, but it should be up to the people to choose if and when they decide to go down the EV route without having any penalty or restrictions placed on them because of their choices. And mark my words, this £15,000 fine on every vehicle from a manufacturer is nothing but bad news for us. A London couple were hit with a £400 fly tipping fine for putting their bins out at the wrong time of day. Carla Grand and John Rowe from Walthamstow, hope I pronounced that right, popped their bins out below their flat on St James's Street at the wrong time after only recently moving in. They had accidentally read a part of the Waltham Forest Council's website which does not show what times the rubbish needs to be left out. But the blunder saw them accused of fly tipping with an enforcement contractor, 3GS, sending them round and round in circles when they appealed. The company emailed Carla several times demanding a £400 payment despite providing no evidence they had reviewed the couple's pleas, according to emails shared with the local Democracy Reporting Service. After emailing 3GS bosses, council officials and Labour MP Stella Creasy, Carla managed to get the fine whittled down to £150, and this amounted to a typical fine for littering, an anonymous council worker said, as the rubbish bags were left intended to be collected rather than fly tipped. Carla, who's 32, called on the council to ease its harsh rules on bin collection times at a Climate Change Scrutiny Committee session on Monday. I feel there is no clear way of appealing or representing when you issued a fine, Carla said. Metro.co.uk, shameless plug for you there, approached Waltham Forest Council and 3GS for comment. Well, to be honest, I don't think the council will be able to get away with something like that around my area, because we have a bin day, and often bins are put out at all sorts of hours, either the day before, the week before if someone's on holiday, or very early on the day itself. So I don't know about you, but it strikes me as really harsh that they're fining her for putting the bins out at what they say is the wrong time of day. I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of signage within the building or the flats that she lives in which says at the specific time the bin needs to be put out, because otherwise how would she know? I mean, it shouldn't be down to her to research the council's websites hoping in vain to find a certain bin time. It should actually be put on the bins itself or beside them, shouldn't it? And surely, whilst I admittedly could be wrong, I would have thought that a bin bag placed beside a bin which was presumably full would obviously be seen as being collected, especially on bin day. It just screams like money grabbing, doesn't it? I mean, soon it seems like we probably wouldn't even be able to walk out the door before being accused of something and fined. And it shouldn't be that way, should it? Admittedly, the councils do often run out of money, probably because I'm guessing of the parties they have or whatever, but they shouldn't be trying to penalise people for putting out the bins a little bit early. I mean, whatever's going to be next. Fining people for parking, I don't know, 2 or 3 centimetres a little bit too far away from the curb, or maybe a little bit too close to a car, or actually, I bet they'll probably introduce an app, wouldn't they? So you can track the bin men and then put your rubbish out before then, which obviously would more than likely have to pay for that as well. Thereby, of course, increasing more pathetic fines for the rest of us because of something they deem is necessary, I'm guessing. But obviously, this isn't the only time the council's shared brain cell has decided to fine someone, because in this video, they actually decided to fine someone £1.27 per second. It's ridiculous. Wait until you see it. Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.